This is the regular board meeting of September 26, 2023. It is now 12 minutes past 4. We will begin roll call.
President Chavez,
Present.
Vice President Cortese,
Here.
Clerk Doe is on his way, Member Herrera is on his way, Member Lay.
Present.
Do you have any public comments?
We have no online nor in person.
We will go to closed session. We are ready. All right, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Be seated. Okay, so that's item 3.02. Section 4. Welcome to the regular board meeting of September 26, 2023. Members of the public, please submit your public comments as follows. Public comments may be made in person in the boardroom by filling out a public speaker request form located at the entrance of the meeting room. You may also raise your virtual hand in Zoom to request to speak and offer comment in real time. You may also submit public comment online by accessing the link to the agenda located at the district's homepage at www.esuhsd.org. Please reference the agenda item number in your written comment and limit your written comments to no more than 1,000 characters in length. Public comments submitted online will be read into the record. Please note, all meetings are recorded. All regular and special meetings of the Board of Trustees and board study sessions are streamed live on meeting nights and also available for viewing the day after the meeting by accessing the district's YouTube channel listed on the district's webpage at www.esuhsd.org under the quick link section. The board is not able to respond to items that are not on the agenda or any personnel issues. Your comments will be read into the record and will be directed to the superintendent and or the appropriate staff member for response. Interpretation of this meeting in Spanish and Vietnamese can be heard by accessing the link and following the instructions shown on the agenda or the district's website. Section 5. Do we have any items to be removed from the agenda for consideration and or carried to future board meeting?
None to be removed.
None? Okay, so that's section 5.01. Nothing under 6.0, that's special board recognitions. We are now on section 7. Emily Sue, she is our student governing board member. She is not here today, but do we have a report for Emily?
We do have a statement from Emily.
Okay, can we read it, please?
The student governing board gathered together yesterday to discuss a few topics. These topics include the district budget used towards student safety measures, the roles of individual schools versus the roles of the district, and finally, some resolutions students have suggested to ensure their safety at school. An application called See Something, Say Something was brought up, and soon we will be advertised on the student governing board's social media platform to inform students that they can utilize this tool. We're still looking for student representation from Overfelt, Oak Grove, Mount Pleasant, and Yerba Buena. However, our boardroom this year is still very lively and full. The student governing board has many ideas and plans, which we continue working towards as the year goes on. Thank you.
Superintendent. All right, let's go on to section 8, special order of business, 8.01. Does the superintendent or any board members have any items to be considered, discussed, or acted out of order? Anything out of order?
Is the crew for the IPC completely assembled? Okay. All right, then we would ask that item 12.01 be moved up to be the next item in front of what is currently 8.02.
Okay. 12.01. Okay, so then y'all are up. Presentation, discussion, action regarding Instructional Policies Committee, IPC.
Good evening, Board, Superintendent, Community. Teresa Marquez, Associate Superintendent of Educational Services. This is a joint presentation that will be conducted by our Instructional Services team, which consists of my Director of Instructional Services, as well as our subject area coordinators who you see standing behind me. I will start just with a brief introduction before turning it over to each of them. The Instructional Policies Committee, IPC, is one of our committees or groups that meets regularly to really look at, through the instructional lens, how do we keep our promise of all students graduating college and career ready. And so you see that as I start most of our presentations, this is no different. We start with our presentation where we want to make sure that the work that we do, in particular that of our Instructional Policies Committee, is aligned to our promise of ensuring our students will graduate prepared for college and career. This is normally, I will say, a presentation that is done at the end of each school year, but given last year's agenda items in June, we moved this over to the start of this school year. And so you see here that the work of IPC is in direct alignment with ensuring that our students fulfill our promise. And for us, it looks like the graduate profile that we have there. And the work that we do through IPC is so that we're meeting our obligation of ensuring that our students find success regardless of how they come to us. There's a lot of reflection that happens as part of our IPC because we're constantly looking and asking ourselves as a system, how do we ensure that we're responding to the needs of our students so that they're achieving at high levels, so that they're exiting our system not only as graduates, but as graduates who are completing the UC A through G requirements. And when I say completion of A through G requirements, it's not necessarily that we're saying all students have to go to college, but it should be their choice to be able to make for themselves whether they decide to go to college. It gives them that option. And of course, IPC is grounded in ensuring that the work and the decisions and recommendations that they bring forth are in alignment with building equitable communities. And so when they look at it through the lens of whether it's math, English, whatever subject area, it's done still through our foundational vision of ensuring that we're doing the work to build equitable communities where all students are welcomed as they are, where their strengths and areas of growth are not only known but supported, where the adults in the system are positively responding to the various needs, and in particular with this committee, the academic needs of our students, so that ultimately, and in particular through IPC, that last bullet becomes a reality, that the tasks that they're engaging with, which are connected to the instructional materials, are allowing our students to develop those strategic thinking skills that are gonna allow them to thrive, not only here locally, but in the global society. And of course, because it is a district committee, the actions that we take are as a system. And really, this is the one key group where we really look at policy, practice, and access in terms of the various recommendations that we make when it comes to our instructional materials and our curricular decisions. Just to give you an understanding of the specific role of IPC, IPC, as I mentioned, serves as in an advisory capacity where they look at what's the impact of instruction, of curriculum, of textbooks on student learning. As per board policy, it's an advisory group that really acts as a liaison between the superintendent and our teaching staff. And specifically, they bring forth recommendations based on curriculum and instructional that is needed after having gone through process that includes obviously the input from our teachers. In terms of the membership, you could see here as per board policy and admin reg 6141, the Instructional Policies Committee consists of one administrator. It tends to be the APED, but the principal sometimes will also come in. One teacher from each side, all the subject area coordinators that you see here, a chairperson from our teachers bargaining unit. And usually I chair the committee, or in my absence, Ms. Guerrero chairs the committee. We have had students in the past, in particular from Student Governing Board, She's not here, but we do invite and we do want to extend the invitation to our student governing board so that they can submit a representative to become part of these meetings as well. And then finally, just some key duties of the Instructional Policies Committee. As I mentioned, it's really honed in and focused on looking at curriculum, instructional materials for all students, and in particular, ensuring that those curriculum and instructional materials that are being reviewed or being evaluated for either replacement or updating are accessible to all students, and in particular, our students with disabilities and our English learners. And essentially, it's really looking at what's that impact of bringing forth, whether it's a new course or it's new instructional materials or an updating of a textbook to the entire educational program. So they do look at if math is going to come up with some sort of new course, is that going to impact another area? And so that's also considered and looked at. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the team so that they can bring forth to you the actions that we are bringing forth for a recommendation for approval from last school year.
Good evening, Superintendent, members of the Board of Trustees. My name is Marta Guerrero, and I'm the Director of Instructional Services. But today, I am acting on behalf of Kyle Dobrens. He is the Subject Area Coordinator for Career Technical Education, and he could not join us today. 3 courses are up on the screen. These are the courses that were presented to IPC for a recommendation for approval, which we bring to you today. The first 2 are sports medicine. They are part of the CTE Health and Medical Technology pathway. And the intent of the courses is to provide students the knowledge and skills to enter the medicine career field. The courses are the equivalent of a college medical athletic training course, and it's open to 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. And Mr. Dobrens worked with the teachers who will be teaching the course to ensure that the courses are aligned to the career technical education standards. The third course is a course that's going to be piloted that is at Yerba Buena High School. It is part of the legal practices pathway, a new pathway for us, as is the health science and medical technology pathway. This course is for students to learn about the potential career options, as well as the laws and statutes that impact juvenile justice, and maybe even possibly learn about possible reforms. And it's open to 10th and 11th graders, is the second of 3 courses in this legal practices pathway. And as it was presented by Mr. Dobrens to IPC, they are recommending approval for the course.
This is, I think, probably more of a general question too. So this is we are being asked to approve a pilot, and then, which means that we offer the course for a year and then reevaluate? Is
Yes.
that what happens?
Usually pathways are, the recommendation is, as Ms. Marquez mentioned, should have come to you in June for your approval to pilot this year.
Sure.
And then the pilot occurs over a year as the teachers and the subject area coordinator continue to refine the course description, the activities, the strategies that they will use. Once the course is fully formed, a committee from IPC made up of either subject area coordinators or school site representatives visits the school, interviews the teachers, interviews the students in the course, interviews the administration of the school site where it's being piloted to come out with a better idea of whether the course is going to be successful, whether it's meeting the goals, and whether it's addressing the standards for that particular subject area. Then it is presented by the subject area coordinator to IPC, once again, sometime during second semester, to seek a recommendation for permanent adoption. If all goes well, we will be back in June with seeking your approval for a permanent adoption. And if it doesn't, if there's still some issues, then IPC can recommend that the pilot be extended until things get worked out.
So even though I appreciated the comment earlier about that we have had a student on IPC in the past, and that invitation is currently being extended, but it sounds like there's also opportunity for student input in this pilot process.
Yes.
So if students really like, yuck, the curriculum does not work, then they get to say so. And then we hear that and make accommodations, adjustments. Okay.
And it's part of the observation process. So when the subject area coordinators lead the committee that goes out to visit the class and visit and talk to the teacher, they can also ask, I want to talk to those 2 students or those 3 students, and then send them back to their class with a pass to make sure they don't get marked absent.
Perfect. Thank you.
I have a quick question. I was wondering about, do we have a survey, to our student to let us know that what kind of subject or what kind of career that they're really interested? Because they might go to nursing career, or they could take a sport or medicine, but they might go straight, in category of nursing, or they probably will look into, another career wise. Then how do we find out that that is the interest of, a group of the student?
For career technical education, I do not believe there is a survey currently to determine that. But for careers like nursing or any other career that requires a college degree, completing the A through G standards is the best way for you to get to that possible career that will give you a bachelor's degree and get you on your way. For career technical education courses, we do have magnet programs. So students are able to pick and apply for a magnet program that might be of their interest, whether it's an animation here or construction at another high school. So they're able to kind of pick something that is of their interest. We also have in 11th and 12th grade, the possibility for our students to attend Silicon Valley Career Technical Education, SVCTE, and take some of those courses that might provide them more of a hands-on opportunity to determine whether or not that is a career that they're interested in. But the other thing around the career technical education courses is that the teachers have to be certified in CTE. So they either have to take additional coursework in something that they may have a background on so that they can get a CTE credential. So sometimes that limits the options for CTE courses at a school site. If I teach there and I have a background in medicine, I may want to get a career technical education credential around the medical field. And so that's offered at the school site. So that piece about the CTE credentialing also plays a part in what's offered at the school sites.
One more quick question, because I know that when I visit Independence, they have auto mechanic, and I knew a lot of students really interested. But I was wondering that, I know we ever thought about to build a CTE course around that, because I know that I think is Metro Ed has, the extra, courses to help. But I was wondering in our district, do we ever thought about elaborated more for auto mechanic classes for our students?
I'm not going to be able to answer your question fully because I do know that we had teachers who were doing that, and I've been to visit the classrooms. I don't know if we still have the program or not, but there have been at different times CTE programs related to auto services. And again, it would depend, is there interest at a school site? Can we find somebody with the appropriate certification who also has a degree, right, to be able to teach in our high schools? But I will bring that up. I'm sure Mr. Dobrens is watching us on TV, so this will be a topic of conversation at our next check-in meeting.
Yeah, and I think at Independence High School, they have a dual, and again, Mr. Dobrens can follow up. It's an auto / construction course that that is part of the CTE pathway. And Mr. Nguyen, Tim Nguyen, who is our career services director, can also provide the answers.
Yeah, because I know that a friend of mine who has a son who took the class at Independence for auto mechanic, and they move up to Evergreen and learn more. And now, they work at Toyota and one of the auto mechanics leaders. So this is really amazing program. And I know that a lot of students probably they like to learn in a way that to fix their own car, because they might not have the money to buy a new car. I mean, to learn it and probably it's not as good skill, for them that, be able to help them.
I do have a question. So these classes are already taking place, right? Because,
Because we
Pilot
are
started?
here today, yes.
right? Yeah. Great. What schools are these classes in?
The athletic training courses, the sports and athletic training are being piloted at Overfelt and Evergreen.
Okay.
And the legal practices pathway is at Yerba Buena High School.
Oh, awesome. Love to go see it. Thank you.
All right.
First of all, I just want to express my appreciation for the program and the pilot, and I think that's step definitely in the right direction in preparing our students for our futures. How do you know which program? I know this is not specific for this program, but I'd like your pictures about how do you know where the direction of the market to determine which program you want to pilot in? Because I know there are a gazillion options that you would choose from.
Speaking about these two programs, I can give you background on these two. The teachers at Overfelt and Evergreen were very interested in teaching sports medicine. They were PE teachers, still are PE teachers, who were very interested in getting their CTE credential to be able to make it a pathway. So they worked directly with Mr. Dobrance and with Tim Nguyen to be able to get their credentialing in CTE and then to create a course. Of course, you always hope that kids are interested. So when we start signing kids up in February, the classes were put out there and they had enough kids interested in taking it that we were able to proceed with the process of piloting it at those two schools. Very similar to what happened at YB. We have a teacher, Miss Kane, who's a lawyer, has a law degree and was very interested in doing this. And so she also got in touch with Mr. Dobrance and with Tim Nguyen and discussed the fact that we could actually create a CTE pathway at Yerba Buena High School around legal practices. And so that tends to be more or less how things-
Serendipity.
Yeah. And so we have the other subject area coordinators who are here to present their work from last year.
Good evening. I'm Abigail Soriano. I'm the new English subject area coordinator. So under previous leadership, English 3 Essentials, the 3rd year course of the Essentials pathway, it was piloted in April of 2022, and it went into permanent adoption in March of 2023. And so English 3 Essentials is a course for our students with intellectual disabilities, and it provides greater support for students with IEPs. And it has scaffolds and differentiation in order to support the needs of our students. And the materials that were approved by IPC last year. So Common Lit 360, which is an online textbook and has like a wealth of resources for teachers to choose from. That went into a pilot in March of 2023 and went into permanent adoption in May of 2023, and also Common Lit 360 for English 2, our sophomores. It went into pilot also in March 2023 and went into adoption in May of 2023.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jose Solis. I am the ELD subject area coordinator. This year, with the approval of IPC, we are piloting Get Ready for ELD 1 and 2. We are currently piloting it at 7 sites with 23 classes. This came after the WestEd review. It's one of the recommendations to find a textbook that's proper for our newcomers. And this is where we're at right now.
Hello, I'm Lawrence Yee, the Math Subject Area Coordinator. So the first item is AP Pre-Calculus. So that is the College Board's newest AP course. So in January, I presented to IPC notifying the APEDs that the course would be available this school year. We have 6 sites currently offering the course, either in addition or replacing our current math analysis course. As a subject, we are looking into introducing that course to all of our sites the following school year. Our second thing is data science. That is a advanced higher level math course for juniors and seniors. Students can take that as an option for a third year A through G mathematics area C course. That aligns with the UC guidance where they could take that either with or in addition to integrated 3 or instead of integrated 3 to be A through G eligible in area C math. We have that currently in pilot at 4 sites. So Apollo High School are one of our SBNs, the small but necessary schools, piloted it the previous year because of the challenges with COVID of raging the pilot. We did request a second year pilot this year, where we are also offering it now at James Lick, Independence, and Overfell. And then the last one is just our mathematical reasoning with connections course, MRWC. That used to be a senior only course. That is a CSU curriculum to have students that earn a C or better in that math course in our high schools to be college ready for CSUs. That with their guidance, they have recommended opening that up to any students, so now juniors and seniors.
Thank you so much. Can we go back to the math? This really calls my attention. I know math is one of the subjects for A through G where there's the most obstacles for students to really meet those A through G requirements and be eligible to apply to a 4-year college. And so anytime I see anything around this is exciting for me. I know that you said that the AP pre-calculus is at 6 schools and we're looking into getting it to the other 6 schools. Will it for sure be accessible to the 12, to all of our schools this upcoming year or?
Yeah, so even for the students at sites where it's not offered as a course, they could still sign up to take the AP exam in May. So the AP pre-calculus course is unique for the AP program with College Board because it really is designed as an AP course for any student that would be ready for a regular pre-calculus course or a current math analysis course.
Yeah.
The reason why not more or all of our sites are offering it this year is the College Board guidance in releasing the course and exam description did not happen until I think late February, early March of last school year.
Okay.
And with less than 2.5 months, many of the sites already had done scheduling. So some of our smaller school sites where we only have maybe 1 or 2 math analysis teachers, it was easier to introduce a pre-calculus
Yes, yeah.
versus like an evergreen where there's 3,000 students and trying to fix the
Right.
schedule at the last minute.
Right, that makes sense. I'd be interested in seeing more how these are opportunities are extended to the district this upcoming year with time to prepare. Data science, is that like stats?
It is a combination of statistics, but also includes some computer science. So they get some introduction to programming. They aren't doing straight coding, but just building blocks to get them comfortable with the ideas of coding. They're using different statistical software packages, and there is also some of the traditional algebra skills in that course.
This is fascinating to me. I love that you said Apollo is one of the schools that has access to this.
Yes, and
is great.
Apollo was our first site to offer it. So
Cool.
they are in their second year of piloting.
Apollo?
Yes, so all of their
Yay.
seniors are currently taking it last year and this year.
Okay,
Yes.
that's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for doing this work. I know it's not easy. I'm super interested in just math generally for the reason I mentioned earlier. So I look forward to continuing to hear how math continues to develop and we have more offerings for our kids. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm fantastic, by the way. So I want on the data science, why only particularly Apollo, given the what I speculate to be huge demand on such a program?
So when the course, when the UC changed their guidance, that was in the middle of the pandemic and the shutdown. So we've actually had as a district about 20 math teachers attend different workshops and trainings for the curriculum. And it just happened that the two math teachers at Apollo were really adamant of really wanting to restructure their math program so that all their juniors will take math 3 and all their seniors will take data science, that we were able to get, even in COVID with distance learning and Zoom plannings, to get the pilot launched last year. And then now that we've been back, last year, we've been really able to grow the pilot. That's why we requested that second year pilot. So now we have 3 of our comprehensive sites offering it as well. So the goal is to expand it to more sites. But it's also one of the things with IPC, trying to balance the personnel, because these are math teachers that are going to be offering another elective. So making sure that we have the teachers and also the teachers trained with that background, because not every math teacher might have that comfort with statistics and computer science. Yeah. That's included as part of it, yes.
Thank you. Good work.
Good evening, Superintendent Benderzi and members of the board. My name is Vanessa Vituk. I am a teacher on special assignment serving as science curriculum coordinator. So I'd like to appraise you of the work that has been done in science over the past year. The first one being the adoption, the permanent course adoption of the science and ethics of biotechnology. This is a course that's unique to Oak Grove High School. It is the last year of the biotechnology pathway, so it completes their 4 years at Oak Grove. The other work that happened last year in terms of course updates was that we wanted to make sure that the course descriptions that we have for our NGSS biology, NGSS chemistry, and GSS physics was more in tune to what the teachers are currently teaching now. So through a process that includes surveys, review of the course descriptions that we had in the past, work with the ITL group, the science ITL group, we were able to bring forth a course description to IPC that was more representative of what is currently taught in those 3 core courses for science. The work does continue because we hope to be able to bring an update in terms of the curriculum. So again, focusing the work on the NGSS standards and our priority standards to make sure that language that we had said is our priority is in that course curriculum. So we'll probably be back towards the end of the school year. In terms of instructional materials, we do have 3 things that we brought to IPC last year. One is the AP biology text. The College Board updated biology in terms of its content, its sequence. So then it was necessary to review new textbooks. That process includes the AP teachers bringing forth the need. And then we go through the board policy in terms of how to select a textbook, but also who the committee has to include. And then through multiple meetings over the course of usually a semester to almost 3/4 of the school year, we look at the textbooks that are available out there, kind of run it through a series of questions that we've developed as a team. We survey students in terms of their likability in terms of the text, the readability of the text, accessibility of the images, the questions, the available resources, so that then they have their input in terms of the text they're going to be engaging with daily. And then after all of that, we brought the textbook to the IPC committee for initially, it's called a pilot request, and then eventually the permanent adoption. So we did finish that process with the AP biology course. The course, the next one, which is AP chemistry, actually just completed its permanent adoption cycle. So we just approved, we just actually asked for approval last September for the permanent adoption of the AP chemistry textbook. Again, using that same process to really closely evaluate the textbooks that we are asking essentially public monies to go to. And then finally, the last text that was adopted last May was the IB Sports Exercise and Health Science Standard Level text. This is for our, again, one of our IB schools. This is
Mhm.
Andrew Hills, and it's uniquely to that school site.
Mm.
That's it for science.
Great. So this last one is aligned to the pilot, right, that we were just talking about?
Mhm.
Great.
But
And-
only for that one course that exists at Andrew Hill.
Got it. Okay, and question with the slide prior to this. Are these the courses that are left or the only ones that need to be aligned to NGSS science standards? Are we done with alignment with
So
this?
the two here in terms of, actually,
Biochem and physics?
the AP chemistry and the AP bio are the ones aligned to College Board standards. The NGSS ones are the ones that we are aligning to the next generation science standards. And again, really trying to make sure that we're mindful that our priority standards language that we've worked on for so long
Yeah.
are really in there. And
Yeah.
so that's why there is a need to update the curriculum to reflect that work we've been doing for so long.
Right, but when we look at our science courses, after these courses, pretty much these are the only ones that need to be updated with NGSS. So that
Yes,
we're making
yes.
sure that the standards are
Yeah.
covered in what we're teaching. right?
Exactly, because these are the three courses that represents our three-course science model. So
Got it.
it's just our NGSS bio, NGSS chemistry, and NGSS physics.
And this will be for the whole district.
This is for the whole district. Yes.
Wonderful. Thank
Okay.
you.
I have
you.
a quick question.
Oh.
Could you elaborate the science and ethics of biotech?
Mhm.
Because I'm not really
So
understand
this
what.
is the fourth year course at Oak Grove High School. It's the last of the CTE pathway that they have there. The teacher who was the lead in this is Miss Juliet Hammock. And essentially students who are able to complete this 4-year pathway are then able to become certified. And this is the work that we're doing now in terms of having the skills to do biotech work. We hope that next step happens so that they have that certification. Mhm. Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent Vanderzee and esteemed board members. I'm Susan Jay, the Subject Area Coordinator for Social Studies. So I will be talking about, Ms. Guerrero mentioned it earlier with juvenile justice. So Law and Society is another course that is, it was a semester course that was taught at a few schools over the years. Right now it's currently taught at Silver Creek and Yerba Buena. And Alessandra Kane, who is a teacher at YB, I worked with her all last year, kind of trying to extend this because it's part of her CTE course load. And then Tala Manea teaches it over at Silver Creek. So we worked together last year to create it into a 1-year course because a semester course was too short. Very similar to what we did in psychology 20 years ago. It's just not enough time to cover it, what they want to cover. So this is offered at these 2 courses. It's available for, 2 schools. It's available at any of our schools that want to teach teach the course. These are just the 2 that happen to offer it now, but it is on the course catalog, so any school is available to teach it. So we went through we're in the person of piloting the year-long course because we already have the semester, which is already approved through IPC. So the year-long course was being piloted this year, and we will go through the process of reviewing it and then bringing it back to the IPC at the end of the year after interviewing the students and teachers and everybody else, and then for your final approval, if it approves of permanent adoption. We did buy a lot of books this year. Finally, finally. You don't know how many world and US history teachers were super happy that we finally have a new book. I believe Mr. Doe went to Independence High School. So you probably used the same textbook that we used last year.
Oh, oh, wow.
Because I was there, I taught there for 25 years and it was almost the same book for the whole time. So yes, we have a new world.
Oh,
Probably close. Or I probably had that in my office at that time. So we have new books that we adopted for last year, and sociology was one. We made it from a semester to a year course, and working with Nicole Bordeaux, the real world was the one that she had piloted and that she really liked. It's an e-text. So we do all of our textbooks now our e-text and then classroom sets. It saves us a lot of money. And the kids all have Chromebooks and it makes it really easy and they're very easy to interchange and interact with. And they're also, you can use them offline. So they're also available offline. So it's not that they have to be connected to Wi-Fi. So it's really beneficial for us and for the students to have access all the time without carrying, 10 books home in a backpack. Permanent adoption also was thinking about psychology. So I had a couple teachers who piloted this book. I didn't because I only taught AP last year. But it's the various versions of it. This was the best one. It was more high school accessible for our students. And it's by the same author who does, actually, I think it's the same author that does our AP book. Really easy for the kids to read. Lots of really good stuff for them to see and apply. So that's a permanent adoption. And then, of course, our World and US books permanently adopted that actually have current information in them, which is nice. And they also include our work that it's very hard to find textbooks in World and US that are aligned to our California state standards. And we got lucky because the two books we used were very aligned with they're made for California. If you've ever been out in the world of textbooks, you can see all the different ones, and we have to go with the ones that are only made for California. But we're working with, we ended up adopting the Savas and working with JB Montali. Prior to our shutdown, we were working on a textbook, adopted one, or working at adopting it. And then as we looked at the textbook, we're like, wait, we need to change some things. So I got a group together, the curriculum committee, and we created a widening the lens. And so working with Savas, they actually took a lot of the stuff that we did and applied it into this textbook. So they took a lot of the information that we gave them. And so there is more missing narratives, not all the missing narratives. My teachers add that in, but that's where we're at right now. And that is the end for now. And I have a few more. I'll be ending at the end of the school year.
That for now.
Yes, for now. Any questions?
This is great.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll kidding aside, I actually do look at some of the textbook that my daughter, who is now the program having, and I actually do enjoy reading them along with my daughter. So I know that what we do, what you all doing, affect every single elements of our students. So thank you for that.
Good evening, Superintendent, members of the board. My name is Autumn Jewell. I'm the subject area coordinator for the visual arts, and we did have a busy year last year. So we went ahead and we were looking at some of our courses, and we discovered there were some boo-boos in the UC system. And in order to fix those mistakes, we actually decided to update our courses and make them more aligned with what is actually happening in our schools and what the district's mission goals are. And so we started with looking at our entry-level art course, and we tried to make the alignment between all of our courses a little bit more structured, so it was easy to understand which classes came after another. So we started with Art 1 Foundations. And so that's our basic introductory art course, which is going to expose students from everything from traditional 2D art to 3D art, and incorporating different culture and cultural practices in art making that are reflective of our student communities. From there, students have the opportunity to branch out, and they can either go a more 3D route or a more 2D route, which would be like drawing and painting. We also, for a long time, our courses were all meshed into one. So it was like drawing and painting 1 through 3 and crafts 1 through 3. What was happening is students weren't receiving the credit if they were taking a second or third year of that course, because it was still the same course ID code. And so it looked like the student was repeating the same course over and over again. And so we wanted to make sure that that was rectified. So what we ended up doing was we separated it out. So it's now Art 2, drawing and painting, Art 2, studio crafts and design. We wanted to reflect that the word crafts can have somewhat of a negative connotation. Some people might think Martha Stewart. And we wanted to reflect that the word crafts actually comes through the arts and crafts movement from the early 18 and late 1800s, which focuses on the art making techniques of utilitarian objects. So art that's useful. So leatherwork and ceramics and textiles and you name it. So it can be just beautiful, but it also is the ideal goal is to have a function of some sort beyond the aesthetics of hanging on your wall. From there, we delineated it out to students could be taking Art 3, intermediate drawing and painting, and intermediate studio crafts and design. And so we're hoping that with that new sequencing, it'll make it easier for students to get the credit that they deserve for taking those courses, and also make it clearer for students to understand what comes next in the order of operations. Thank you.
This might
I
be
have
like a
a
given,
question.
but there's art there's visual arts in every single one of our schools, right? Like our kids
Correct.
have access to that, okay.
Yes, no, we have a large array of art courses. So we have CTE art courses, which are multimedia magnets. We also do have some graphic design courses. We have photography.
Yeah.
We have all the AP art courses except for AP 3D design, which hopefully we'll get that added on. We have sculpture.
Yeah.
We have,
Seen that.
yeah, we have a large array of art courses for students to take an opportunity to delve into and hopefully, you know, go do something with that. We have quite a few students last year who graduated who went on to art degrees or have moved on to art related majors in college. We had about 25 that I know of district wide. I'm sure there's more that were not shared with me. But the new trend right now for students is visual communications, which is a combination of graphic design, what do you call it? The apps on your phone, like the creation of like social media apps. So it's a combination of graphic design and user interface. That was the word I was looking for. So it's a new major. Cal Poly, I believe, is the first one to have this, and at least 10 students from our district went directly to Cal Poly for that this year.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
UI, UX, UIs.
yes.
Yeah.
Communication design. Sorry, I'm like I get shy
This
to
is
speak.
really cool. Thank you for
So,
sharing.
so animation also
Oh, yes,
included.
animation as well. Sorry.
Yeah, because I know that when I visit school, and a lot of students really like animation
They
class.
do, yeah. So we have an animation magnet at Mount Pleasant, and then there's also animation at Andrew Hill. Yeah, so we do have a lot of opportunities for students.
Awesome.
In the summer of 2022, Assembly Bill 181 opened up a pathway to a diploma for students with moderate to severe disabilities, who up until now had been only on a path to receive a certificate of completion after 4 years of high school, because their coursework was aligned to functional skills. What are those skills you need to function out in society? These are students with exceptional needs in learning. But AB 181 opened up this pathway for these students who had never had the possibility of earning a diploma to do so. This was summer of 2022, which meant that last year, instructional services had to learn what standards aligned instruction is for students with moderate to severe disabilities. And we went on a crash course of learning about the core connectors and the essential understandings, which are aligned to the California standards for each of the subject areas in English, math, science, and social studies, so that we could create a pathway for the students to be able to earn a diploma. Part of the pathway is that students with exceptional needs can earn a diploma by meeting the graduation requirements for the state of California, 130 credits. So in order to create this pathway, we had a collaboration with the Special Education Department, Dr. Sharon Cavallero, Director of Special Services, Sandrine Legrand, Coordinator of Special Services, Catherine Vera, Program Specialist, who works with the programs for students with exceptional needs, Shira Barnes, Instructional Coach for the teachers who have a credential for moderate to severe disabilities, and the subject area coordinators of English, Math, Science, and Social Studies. And at some point in the future, we'll present the result of that work. However, in order to create those courses and to create the pathway for a diploma, we needed curriculum. Because although the students have our standards aligned, the courses are standards aligned, they have specific essential understandings aligned to the same standards that are taught in general education classes. So because it was a new assembly bill, there isn't a lot out there. And so we were very lucky to find Teachtown as an adapted curriculum that has been adapted. The standards have been adapted to be able to be taught to our students. And so part of this partnership between special education and instructional services allowed us to present Teachtown as a pilot for the teachers who work in the programs for students with moderate to severe disabilities, our students with exceptional needs. We have 5 programs. Let's see if I remember them all. James Lick, Piedmont, Overfelt, Evergreen, and Santa Teresa. Those are the 5 schools where we're piloting Teachtown in the new coursework that has been created in a collaboration with the teachers in the program as well as the subject area coordinators. And so the recommendation is for approval.
And it's only those 5 schools that have moderate to severe students there? That's where they are? Okay,
They have a program for students
they
with
all
mild
have
to severe disabilities. Yes,
great. So everybody has access to it.
yes.
I also want to ask that this is only for instructional material textbook for all of those subjects that you mentioned. When are we gonna have the language? For the material and textbook? Language, Spanish, Vietnamese?
Oh, for this, this course is all English because it's for students who are currently enrolled in our specialized academic instruction classes in English, math, science, and social studies. It's separate from the work under world languages.
Or language, but we have similar way that you're gonna conduct instructional material and textbook.
Yes.
right?
And so the process for Spanish and Spanish heritage is they have their textbooks. Spanish and French got new textbooks last year, so they were approved the year before. The process for Vietnamese, which is what we presented the last time, we still have to finish creating the course descriptions before looking at the materials, which is kind of the same process that was presented today. We create the courses, the course descriptions, finalize that, and then look for materials that support that work.
Thank you.
For that, are there any other comments, questions for colleagues?
I have a general question. Are you at the end of the presentation? More or less? So what would be an example of a course that did not achieve permanent adoption? What were the issues or problems that arose that led to not permanent adoption? That's regarding a course as an example. Similarly, what's an example of a textbook that did not achieve permanent adoption? What issues or problems arose that led to not a permanent adoption?
I don't know if we've had anything that hasn't been, permanently adopted, but I know that I worked on a course, film studies at Evergreen High School a few years ago, I think when I first became SAC. And I went in with Jeffrey Lynn Davis, the math, English SAC at the time, and we went and reviewed the course, talked to this, watched what the interaction, looked at the standards, and then talked to the students, and then went to Silver Creek High School, which also was doing the same exact course. And looked and viewed both of them and noticed there's a little disconnect between the two courses, even though they're both piloting the same course. And there was a difference too. So we went back and we said, no, it's not approved until you fix. And we gave them a list of things that needed to be
And
fixed.
what was that course again?
Film studies,
Film study.
film studies. It's in the art department.
From
visual
what
arts.
you're saying,
Yeah,
I'm
so
getting-
that's kind of, we went through and we told them exactly, this is what needs to be fixed. You need to work together. It needs to be standards aligned. It needs to be something that's portable, meaning that every site has accessibility to teach the course. And so they went back, they fixed it. We went and reviewed it again. And then we, at the end of the year, we approved them for adopt. They went through another year. So it took 2 years to permanently adopt. So we do try and do our due diligence to make sure the students' needs are met. That's our main focus, is to making sure that our students are getting what they're supposed to get in standards aligned and support and academics.
Sounds like overwhelmingly, once a course is introduced into the IPC process, they're going to end up with permanent adoption overwhelmingly.
If they follow what with the guidelines that we give them, yes.
Yeah, once it's
there are-
piloted and what's in the system, it sounds like overwhelmingly they do achieve permanent adoption.
Yes, as long as they're, yeah, because
It's
we
like
make
it's the
sure they hit the
exception to the
benchmarks.
rule when that doesn't occur.
I don't think we've had a course, Mark.
And I think it's because there are safeguards built in. So before it gets to IPC. So the process starts usually with a teacher, a school, a department, somebody who wants to offer something new. I had this when I was in high school, or I heard that somebody's doing something. I'd like to be able to offer it at my school. That idea has to be taken to the department first, at the school site where the idea has originated. The department has to be on board. The administrators at the site have to be on board. The approval of both the department and the site administration has to be part of that.
That's what I was looking to
Mhm.
understand.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Before
But-
it gets to the subject area coordinator. Once it gets shared with the subject area coordinator, then that idea of a course or a new textbook has to be discussed by the department chairs. The subject area coordinators meet with their department chairs, a representative from each high school once a month. This becomes a topic that needs to be discussed, the reasoning behind it. What are you talking about? How does this meet our standards? Is it aligned? How does it fit into our course of study? All of that gets done
Wow.
there. Once it passes that,
Mhm.
then it can get into, then it gets brought to IPC for approval of pilot.
That'd
So
be
the,
part of your presentation when you're educating a public about
Mhm.
what you do,
yes.
you know.
So it's part of that. So things do get rejected at the department level,
Mhm.
at the school site level. Sometimes the resources of the school do not allow for that, or they already have something else that's similar, that they're able to offer something to the students. Sometimes it's just not a good fit at that time for the school site,
Mhm.
or the department chairs say no, and then IPC.
That really helped a lot. And just, I'm curious if if you have an example of a textbook that was piloted, did not achieve permanent adoption. And it's not that crucial anymore because I now understand more of how the system works.
Yeah, and usually with the textbooks, if they're piloting, let's say 2 to 3, like when we did the math pilot some years ago, right, they only bring forth the one that they're agreeing. So there's 2 that are rejected just from the onset as part of the process. And then there's the one that's brought forth to IPC as part of that similar process that Ms. Guerrero just explained.
Okay, thank you very
Mhm.
much.
Absolutely. So just to close out the presentation, we do meet regularly, so you see the times there. We've kept the meeting via Zoom because it's worked for us. Because we have representatives from across the school sites, it just makes it for a more effective meeting to continue to do it via Zoom. And again, we'll be reaching out to SGB to make sure that we get a student representative for those. So you've heard the actions that have been forth for IPC from this last school year. And so administration, in representation of the members of the Instructional Policies Committee, is recommending approval of the IPC actions as presented.
Thank you.
So
Sure.
moved.
Hold on. I know we're excited. Do we have any in-person public speaker requests? None. Online public? Anyone raising their hand? Okay, now, is there a motion?
Move for approval, please.
Second.
Moved by Doe, seconded by Herrera. Board, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Vote passes unanimously.
Thank you. And I just want to thank the entire team for all their work and effort in putting this together.
Thank you.
And for coming twice. Thanks for coming back.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And
That was
Greg,
a great presentation, great report.
Second time's a charm, I hear.
second time, Sharon. And I just want to thank all the members of those committee and all the people that do the visitations and do the interviews, and that there's an entire crew behind this that gets brought through this chain so that when it's ready for bring it to here, it's been vetted, that a lot of eyes have been on it, and a lot of our issues have been considered in what we bring here. So thanks, team, for being vigilant on that. It makes a difference.
Thank you.
And we learned a new word today, at least the source of the word craft from
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, we were in section 8. All right, so I believe we're now 8.02. This is a presentation, discussion, or action to accept unaudited actual financial report for fiscal year 22-23. Dr. Michelle Hunton.
Good evening, Dr. I'm
Not
just
yet.
giving you a new title. President Chavez, Superintendent Vandersee, and members of the board, good evening. Thank you so much. Before I get started this evening on the 22-23 unaudited actuals, I want to recognize Ms. Sylvia Palaio here with us this evening. And also, I know Marisol Esparza is not here. She also is key to our finalizing our unaudited actuals, and they too have a whole team, but led by them in making sure that we get to the end. And they did it with multiple vacancies this year, so it was a feat. So thank you, Ms. Sylvia. Okay, and what a pleasure! It's a pleasure to work with the team. So we have great. So we're off and running. So here we are. And we know that our cycles go from one year to the next. This really finalizes a single budget and an actual cycle with our end of year. This is really what our unaudited actuals is. And so we're here in September of 2023. We have one more stop for this, and it happens to be our audit, which I like to call our report card. And we will see that in December, January. It will be presented to the board. Okay, so this evening we're going to look at an overview. There's 2 items listed here. We will see them in an action item coming up just shortly. So I'm not going to talk about them. I'm going to focus on the unaudited actuals, and we're going to look at revenues and expenditures as a highlight. So as we look at the unaudited actuals, specifically for this period of time, it went from July 1, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. This is what our auditors, our financial auditors, outside auditors come in, and they utilize this report to complete the financial statements and the audit for this year. And so you will, they've been visiting us this week. So Sylvia finished up with the end of year, and she went right into the audit, lickety split. So I thought it would be interesting to just take a moment. We know that we've been talking about declining enrollment here in our district, and we know that it is happening throughout the state. So I thought it would be fun to look to see, we're looking here back to 1999, 2000, and this is a state view. And so we can see what has happened throughout the state over those years up through the 21-22 year. So we were at one point in time in the state over 6 million students. We have now dropped down to 5.8 million students. So that's a pretty significant. And so I did pick a point in time so that we could compare between the state and also our district. And I chose the 2004-05 year. And so for the state, that drop was about a 7% drop when you look at 2004-05 through the 21-22, the 5.8 million. So on the next slide, we're going to look at our district, and it takes us from 2004-05 all the way through the 22-23 year. And so when we look at the drop for Eastside Union, it's been 14%. So we're about double what the state has been. Several reports back, I had talked about a report that came out that, I can't remember the group, but they were looking forward. It was like 2031, 2032, something like that. And so they looked at what was projected for the state in a decline. And it's on average 8% at the state level. And it was 12% here in Santa Clara County. And so, and there were several different counties, but I focused in on Santa Clara County. I can see there's a question coming. Okay. We'll come back to it. So anyway, that was just some interesting information. Okay, so now we're going to look at the revenues for the 22-23 year. And we can see that we ended with 391 million. And as you can see, there's different categories. This is broken out by unrestricted and restricted. And then we have different categories of funding that we receive. We have our LCFF, which is our local control funding formula. And then we get federal, state, other local revenues, and we have transfers in as well and transfers out. And that is specific. When you see that last line there with the 52 million, that is specific to our routine restricted maintenance and our special education program. So as we know, that lives over there on the restricted side of our funding sources. And so that's what is contributed to those programs to keep them whole. Then let's go on to our expenditures. Thank you. Oh, you're reading my mind this evening. Good job. And so we again are looking at the unrestricted and restricted portions of our budget. And this again is listed by categories. And so you can see our salaries, benefits, and then all of the other categories coming through. I'm going to go to the next category, and then I'm going to give you a little bit more information about the budget or where we landed for the end of the year. So if we could go to the next, thank you so much. And so we can see that this brings over our revenues in summary level, our revenues and expenditures. And we can see that we did have an increase when we look at overall of 45 million. So when we look at what happened, there were several items that occurred at the end of the year. We had some increases in revenues coming from the state after we had gone through the budgeting process for our estimated actuals. We also had a liability adjustment as cleanup through the year as we are going through our year-end close. And we had some expenditures that on the restricted side of the house, some expenditures that were higher than we had anticipated. And and the importance of that is that it increases our revenues, but also that means that it increases our expenditures. So the bottom line is a net zero. We had some increases in lottery funds. And then we also, when we look at our expenditures, there was the expenditures for special education came in lower than we had anticipated. And then there were some other savings as well in some of the other programs. And so that brought us to, and we're going to look at a multi-year projection in just a minute. So we're happy to see that we are showing that positive ending the 22-23 year. You will see that there is a beginning balance adjustment. So what is that? So there is a new GASB statement, Governmental Accounting Standards Board statement, and they require us to make an adjustment to the fair market value of our cash. And so this is the first year that you're seeing this come into play. So you will see this adjustment every year. So the adjustment occurs, it gets reversed, and then it will occur every June 30th. And so that is something so that's the reduction of that 2.3 million. That is getting us to an ending fund balance of 108 million on this year. And you can also see on the bottom portion is showing the elements of the components of the ending fund balance. And you can see that that is identified in each of those categories. We have our normal operating items, but we also have some of our restricted reserves. Did that show up? Okay, I want to point this out. The 41 million, it looks like it's in prepaid items. It's just that the lines were off. So the 41 million actually is the restricted reserve amount. So when you go back to the report, you're going to see that same thing happening for the restricted side. And then your fiscal stabilization that the board took action on some time ago, maybe a year, 2 years ago. No, a year ago. Sorry, I think just before I started. And then we have our 3% reserve. So that really does make up that 108 million when you look at that, those components of the ending fund balance. Okay, going on to the multi-year projection. I want to make a caveat here. This is just looking at the unrestricted portion of the budget. And you can see that we are starting in the 22-23 with the actuals, with our ending fund balance of 67 million. By the time we get to the 2025-26 year, we've gone through about $100 million. I think it's a little shy of that, but that gets us to 27.7 million in the red. That does not include our economic uncertainty of 10.4 million, 10.7, excuse me. So when we look at what we are looking at for an adjustment in that third year out, we're looking for 38 million. To be exact, 38.4 million. And so with the adopted budget, which included our multi-year projection, the County Office of Ed did indicate that what they're looking for from us on December 14th is when you'll receive our next report, which is our first interim report for this year, that they will be expecting a plan on how we're going to mitigate that 38 million in the third year out. So what are our next steps? So our next steps will be meetings with the Budget Advisory Committee. And so we'll be beginning those in October, and we will go through April of 2024. We will have monthly meetings. Lots of discussions to talk about that 38.4 million so that we can meet that timeline of that December 14th requirement of the County Office of Ed. And then at that same time, you'll have your first interim report. Our financial audit reports you will see in January of 2024. And then the governor's budget comes out so quickly for our 24-25 year.
The governor's budget proposal comes out when, January 22nd, or when is that?
I'm sorry, the
The governor's,
January governor's budget, it's on or before January 10th every year. That's a statutory requirement. Mhm.
thank you for this.
Mhm.
Colleagues, questions, comments? Go ahead, Cortese.
Thank you. Can we look at slide number 7, please? So just to clarify, the 286, almost 287 million, that's just straight ADA, right?
I'm sorry, the first line, yes.
The first line, that's just our straight ADA. And then the other state revenues, the 54 million, is that what we call one-time money?
So the federal and state monies?
The federal is federal, I get that, but the other state revenue, that's grants they give us that they call one-time money, is that right?
It's not all one-time money.
Okay.
There are some not as much as there used to be, before LCFF,
Yeah.
but there's a little bit in there.
So
But the
there's some, like,
majority of that funding is one time.
So this is unrestricted. No, this is restricted plus
Right, so it's both. So you can
most of it's
see.
general fund. Okay,
Right.
48 million is general fund.
Mhm.
So some of it's ongoing and some of it's
Correct.
one-time money.
Yes, correct.
Do you have a
Do you want a
sense of-
breakdown of that?
I'm just curious how much of which, yeah.
Okay. We can do that. And we can have a conversation in our budget advisory committee about that.
Perfect. I'll see you there.
In October, but we're setting that date up.
I was gonna say,
Thank you.
isn't there board members that are already assigned to that committee? That's you, Patty,
Mhm.
and you on it as well?
And Trustee Doe. I think it's Trustee Doe and Trustee Cortese.
So you will do that. Great. Any other questions or comments? No, thank you. Thank you to you and thank you to the team for the hard work. See this thick packet? Like, oh my God, when I saw the attachment on the board docs, like, wow. My eyes go like this, looking at all these numbers. So just thank you so much for all your hard work with this.
Helps
Appreciate
with
it.
the insomnia.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so that is 8.02. We are on to section 9. All right, 9.01. So this is a public hearing for resolution 2223/2024-04 regarding the sufficiency of textbooks and instructional materials. So we will now hold a public hearing, which is scheduled at approximately, wow, it is 7:24. So we're gonna say 7:24 for resolution number 2023-2024-04 regarding the sufficiency of textbooks and instructional materials. So calling for speakers at this time.
Move for approval.
I think I have to call 3
Oh, this is
times.
the hearing.
Yes,
Sorry.
we're not there yet.
Jumped the
Calling.
gun.
All right, calling for public speakers a second time. Calling for public speakers a third time. Okay. Are there any speakers for this item? Yeah,
None.
none. Okay, the public testimony on this matter is closed. All right, so that's the hearing. Now let's go to 9.02 regarding the adoption of the resolution 2223-2024-04, the same one regarding the sufficiency of textbooks and instruction materials per Education Code 6119. Associate Superintendent Marquez.
This is a standard item that comes at this time every year, so administration is asking for approval as submitted.
Approval.
Okay, board, all those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Abstentions? Vote passes unanimously. Thank you.
Board President, thank you for that vote. We do need to return to 8.02 as the item was action item in order to accept the unaudited actual financial report. I'm sorry for
Move
not.
to approve the unaudited auction,
So there is-
unaudited actuals. We have to just approve receiving of the unaudited. actuals.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Go ahead, Cortez.
I'll move to approve receipt of the unaudited actuals report.
Moved by Cortez, seconded by Doe. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Vote passes unanimously. Today, we're not asking Emily, 'cause she's not here. Okay, next meeting. All right, thank you for that, Superintendent.
Thank you.
All right, we are now in section 10. All right, so members of the public may address the board on any subject not on tonight's agenda. However, provisions of the Brown Act preclude any action. As an unagendized item, no response is required from the board or district staff, and no action can be taken. However, the board may instruct the superintendent to agendize the item for future meeting. Any person may address the board on any item on the meeting agenda. Persons wishing to address the board may participate and comment as follows. In-person public comment may be made in person in the meeting room by filling out a public speaker request form at the room's entrance. When your name is called, please come to the podium and state your name for the record. You may also raise your virtual hand in Zoom to request to speak and offer comment in real time. You will have 2 minutes to speak. Persons may fill out a speaker request form via online submission. Comments should be limited to no more than 1,000 characters in length. Please reference in your submission the agenda item for your comment. Your comment will be read out loud as part of the public meeting. Do we have any public comment? Go ahead.
We have online public comment. Public comment from Alessandra Salazar, coach. I went to Independence High School and graduated in 2009. I am now a coach for YB Girls Varsity Soccer. When I played, we had buses and it was the only way athletes could get to games. Now, as a coach, I have found out buses are not available unless paid for and fundraised by the team. I want to know why this is, since it seems like a safety liability issue. I also wanted to see, since we aren't a pay-to-play district, why are we asking students for basic necessities as transportation? Is there something that can be done about this? That is the end of online public comment.
Thank you. Do we have any hands on the Zoom?
There is no online spoken content.
I think what we do is inform someone who submits a comment like that, that it's being referred to the administration. Follow up.
Put that on the record. Great, thank you for that. Okay, moving on to section 11. So superintendent's report. Mr. Vanderzee?
Yeah, this will be a standing item at each of our board meetings, similar to in the past where we had the COVID report. This convening, this report will be made at each of our board meetings to give us an update into the status and the work of the task force and our efforts in response to the convening that was asked for at our past meeting. At our past meeting, I think it was very clear that in response to the incident in James Lick and some of other issues that people identified throughout the district, that there were some concerns and also some celebrations about safety and belonging within our community, but definitely a lot of feelings around that there are some matters that need to be addressed across our district. And that was heard, and it was heard by the board. And at the end of the last board meeting, requested a convening, and that the administration put together a task force that gathered up those voices. Because as we listened to, I'm gonna say almost 3 hours of testimony and for opinions and positions, and just kind of, this is how they've been affected. We can hear that there are many different voices with many different points of view who are promoting different responses to promote safety and security and belonging on our campus. And that in making this decision, we need to make sure that as a district, we go through a process where those voices are heard and considered, and where it's not just one group trying to win out of the other, but really working together as a district to find the right response so that our community, staff, students feel safe and are able to come to school feeling, hey, I'm here to learn, move on, belong, and grow, and all the things that we're doing as we talk about full participation in Silicon Valley. So in response to that, I just want to let everyone know where we are and kind of what the thinking with this. So the purpose of this convening a task force is to establish bringing together multiple perspectives. And while we heard different issues at the last board meeting, I don't want to just simply take the list from what we heard or what people have emailed us, but really in convening this task force, that task force lift up what the issues are and then start working about how can we find the appropriate response to address those issues. Obviously, including the voices that we've heard, obviously that included some of the issues that have always been raised, but rather than administration of the board single-handedly picking what those issues are, that this task force would be
Part of shaping that.
right, and part of shaping that and also finding the appropriate response. So that's the purpose of this. It intends to start essentially the week after we get back from the break, because we know that there are people that have already made those plans. The task force membership, as you can see on this, will be made of representatives from the district office, from stakeholder groups, including teachers, as well as teacher representatives from our bargaining unit, students, parents, school site administrators, classified site staff, classified staff representatives, the SOUP and the SOUP's council, as well as 2 board members. And so this task force will be facilitated by an outside facilitator, because I think we'll do this work together and facilitated by somebody that's working towards a shared outcome for Eastside. So this will be a group that will be composed in interaction with our stakeholder groups and convene shortly after return from break. Now, phase 1 of this our goal, and I'm going to just jump down to the timeline. Our goal would be to get some of our pressing issues lifted up and responded to before the end of the semester in December. However, we do know that there are some items and issues that are going to take longer because it involves obligations that we have with other outside agencies, readiness for other outside agencies. And so some items you might need to take action on after December, but we're going to convene this task force with the goal of getting as much of the issues lifted up and appropriate response brought to you way before the end of this semester. With that said, phase 1, we'll use that process that we talked about. Will be this invited task group to lift up those issues, to prioritize those issues, to figure out if there needs to be subcommittee or subgroups or different strands of action in terms of finding responses. That will be phase 1. And like I said, we're going to lift up those issues and start to get to those responses quickly so that we can get to phase 2. And phase 2 is when this task force would bring to you in this setting for a public board study session or shuns, right? Most likely plural, where members of the community can come listen as they present to the full board what this task force has, where they are and where they're going and what their recommendations are at this point, so that the board can be informed, ask its question, and also to give members of the public an opportunity to weigh in on what has been contribute to something that hasn't been heard already, or an idea that they are saying, hey, I'd like this to be considered by the community. So there'll be the task force sessions and phase 2. The members of that team will come for the special board study sessions, which will be public. And then phase 3 would be to bring a form of recommendation to this board for exactly what we do here, for a recommendation for you to take action on. And obviously at a board meeting, that public has the opportunity to come in and make comment before you take action. But all of that would be coming after the task force initiated the process, shared it with you in board study sessions, refined it or adjusted it in order to make the recommendation to you here in a board meeting. Like I said, whether that's November or December, to get some of the items completed. And then those that take longer, we'll just continue to engage in this process. The reason we're going to keep it a standing item is just so that we keep it alive and that we don't lose sight that once we make a decision on 1 or 2 items, that we don't do due diligence to make sure we address the other issues as well.
Great, thank you. Go ahead, Herrera.
Yeah, I think there's some subtle distinctions here that can be helpful. And one is instead of committees, instead of a committee with members, we're using a task force with participants. And the reason why I choose participants for task force versus quote members is that the task force is a more fluid kind of process. And what we're really looking for is that stakeholder groups their voice be represented. So there's the student voice, the parent voice, the CSEA voice, the ESTA voice, and so on, the administrator or site administrator voice. And who shows up to a task force meeting as a participant can also fluctuate. When a principal person, a main person can't make it to a meeting or two, they don't need to go through any process to substitute someone because they're participants at a task force conversation, and so on. And what we're looking for is not for them to develop recommendations, but rather to bring more into focus the bottom lines of the various perspectives at a deeper level of understanding. And it isn't until phase 2 in the public board study sessions that we're going to start coming to a sense of what the recommendations ought to be forwarded to the phase 3 public full board deliberation and action or decisions on it. So all these subtle clarifications, I think, are important for what people have as expectations and understandings. And I feel really good about how the district is approaching what is not a singular element of the safety and security issue for our campuses, because it's actually multidimensional and everything affects everything else, and so on. So the task force, with its ability to break out working groups and then have those working groups come back and engage the full task force, that approach can work. It will take time, but I think it's going to be valuable in the end to engage in this level of dialogue. Thank you.
I just wanted to I want to thank the superintendent and administration for coming up with this thoughtful plan. I really appreciate that. Trying to get as much of this done by December, right? And not having, just things take forever. Understand that there are some things that might linger a little bit longer, but the bulk of it, the idea is to get it done as soon as possible. And oh my goodness, I lost my train of thought. But the essence is, thank you for this really thoughtful process that involves a lot of people, very diverse perspectives, and just whatever comes out of this really coming out of, our gatherings of being together versus us saying, this is what needs to be, the solution, or that needs to be the solution, because it's people on the ground having these experiences that really are going to co-create this and say, this is what we need. So I'm really looking forward to this. And thank you also for making it a standard item, not just for like if someone can't attend or isn't part of any of these groups, but
You mean for the agendas?
for the agendas. Yes, sorry. Thank you for the clarification. I think it's important that the community knows what is happening and gets updates regardless of their participation here or not. It's important that we communicate clearly and that they know what's happening. So want to thank you for that as well.
Sure. And so this will be the vehicle for kind of, or the moment on this item to give a progress report, but also to get the word out. Okay, here's when the board study session is going to be.
Yeah.
So there's a place for it too, so we can announce it in our summary as well as also publicizing in other places. I do want to thank all the administration, classified staff and certificated staff that have stepped up and engaged in taking on supervision at sites, doing an analysis of their site of where they should be and when. For those that have gone to the training from student services about forest supervision, thank you. I believe there's another one tomorrow that if you're doing supervision, you can attend via Zoom to make sure that you're kind of clear on what's being asked of you. And I want to thank also for people that have already started to do the analysis of just things like fencing or where to position people, and a lot of thoughtful discussion. And I'm looking forward to this task force emanating from that, recognizing that and building from it.
Madam President, is there a reason why you wouldn't title it, instead of convening task force, insert the word safety in there somewhere, convening safety task force or convening,
At this point, because we were responding to the convening, we're titling this convening for tonight. We will adjust its, when we name that task force specifically, we'll adjust the title.
Okay, thank
Convening could mean a lot of things, right?
you.
Great. Thank you for that. We're good? Colleagues? Okay. 11.02, presentation and or discussion, bless you, regarding the facilities master plan. Superintendent and Assistant Superintendent Michelle Hunchu. Julio Lucas. We got 3 people here. Julio, are you up?
Julio's up.
Come on up.
All right. Hey, Julio's up. And when we were discussing this, we recognized that in years past, we've had facilities master's plans in 2012, 2017. But we wanted to make sure that we did this year was come to you to talk before we start a facilities master plan about what it is, what's in it, and what our process is going to be. And so this is not for you to adopt tonight. This is for presentation only, or
I believe it's written as approval for continuation of the
approval for
process.
continuation, but you're not approving a facilities plan tonight. Okay. Let's do it.
So yes, I'm here because I have good news. It's time for a facilities master plan. In my time here at East Side, once we start this process, this will be the second master plan that I'm part of, but let me back up just a tad. My name's Julio Lucas. I'm the senior manager of the bond program. Well, I didn't forget. I know that matters. Yes. So what I'm going to cover tonight is some historical context on why we're here and talking about facilities master plan, and then highlight some of the process. So there is a board policy on master plans, and part of what you're going to see tonight is quoting exactly that and exactly that process. It's board policy 7110. And that exists because the board recognizes the importance for long-range planning and how to implement those components into what we do with our buildings and whatnot. I just heard some comments there on the safety committee or convening committee. And that's an example of a group we would want to engage with to know how best to plan future forward. So the last time we had a facilities master plan here at Eastside was 2017. And right now, 2024, best practice is about that range. Time to do it again. And again, even more great news, the next time we would do it after that is 2030. So I'm looking forward to that one next. That's correct. That's the one after this one. As far as like keeping a timeline and understanding, like, again, best practice. Let's see. An updated master plan will provide a framework to continue to fund the school facilities modernization program and to execute that program efficiently, effectively, and in compliance with the Prop 39 general obligation bond accountability measures. The planning process will include engagement and collaboration with constituent groups as called for in board policy 7110 facilities master plan. And again, this is part of what's required because of what we do with how we vote when we get the bonds we get. And that's again by a 55% margin rather than 2/3. And we're going through that process now. So the next slide speaks to the components of the master plan. It's outlined here as 8 different components, again, quoting the board policy. Number 1 is about why are we doing this? What are our goals? Number 2, what will we do with the process? Again, the description is somewhat general, but I think you get the idea. Number 3 is the demographics of the community, but basically collecting current data, the data of how we're structured now, what it is that we have as facilities, resources, and assets. Number 4, who we are, talking about where are we as an educational program today. And it will include that in the description of what the master plan is about. Number 5, it will look at the properties as a whole and the infrastructure of what the properties are or the sites are individually. The way it reads here is analysis of the safety, adequacy, and equity of the existing facilities and potential for expansion, including the adequacy of classrooms, school dining and food preparation areas, physical activity areas, play courts, parking areas, and other school grounds. Number 6, all sites as a whole. The one that came to mind when I was looking at this is the evolution and development of the purchase of Calero, or the growth here at this campus with ATP, the history of some of our sites and the perimeter fencing, even thinking back to the perimeter fencing of Santa Teresa or Yerba Buena or other sites, and the new talks about fencing. And then number 7 here is costing and modeling some of those ideas. And of course, number 8, what I mentioned here about a policy for reviewing and updating the plan. And again, we do have a policy that is the board policy. However, the board policy doesn't speak specifically to a reoccurring date. However, best practice in the industry is about where we're at now, 6 years, and then 6 years following would be 2030. Next slide talks about the minimum standards and how this all works. Number 1, the purpose, aligning the district's educational goals. Number 2, using the site to its fullest. I think that's my interpretation of what that item means in the policy and AR. Number 3 is really speaking to how these sites are historically sized. So we as an example, we own and love and appreciate Yerba Buena as a site. Yerba Buena's field, when we look at it from the sky, Google Maps or whatnot, is a smaller in proportion to other fields. And one of the reasons we're currently doing the project that we're doing with the synthetic turf for baseball, softball out there. But we're not going to grow Yerba Buena because we find out in the master plan that, hey, that field should have been larger to today's standards. We don't have that ability, like as if we were in Mountain House or Tracy or someplace where they're trying to acquire new sites and check off boxes of new standards. That's not where we're at. But using what we have to the fullest is how we can meet that objective in number 3. Number 4, a very relevant one, again, designed for the environmental comfort of the users. Number 5, that we make these user friendly by having maintenance standards that we can live up to as a district. Number 6, again, making sure we're where we should be with current building codes. And remember, every site and everything out there, including, I don't know, the doorknob on that door right there, not being a lever handle, remember, at one time when this building was built, that was code compliant. But what triggers future code compliance is something that we will look at, and how we grow and age the sites out further. Number 7, again, an important one there for me and for all, and I brought a pencil up here, it has an eraser, is flexibility. Let's flip this to the next slide. So this speaks to the process, and we've gone, I've been fortunate enough to be here at the district to go through this process once before. And the idea here is that we organize, schedule, and vision and present to school site councils what we collect, assess, and document in our research. So the existing planning analysis here, I'll read the number 1 here. Identification and dissemination of plans, reports, and studies of past planning initiatives to ascertain themes, issues, and projects that were identified and prioritized and either implemented or deferred. And then school site council engagement, superintendent's council engagement, and engagement with the board of trustees is a process of reviewing those assessments and seeking and looking for new areas of focus and new ideas. or affirming the ideas that, again, were deferred from the last time we reached out. Let's go to the next slide. So again, this is a graphic of what that planning process would be like. Just kind of showing how one step goes to the other, and then looking at the qualitative and quantitative needs and purpose and reason for any facility growth or modification, and melding those together into that purple color at the bottom. And last but not least, the next slide, please, is an outline of how we plan to do this. So proposals from interested firms will be due in early November, evaluated in mid-November. That proposal we're hoping to get approval in mid-December, and then we'll have a kickoff meeting. The person will now be on board, or the team will now be on board, and we can look at collecting that data, doing those assessments, doing that research, getting to know what's in front of us, and begin the exercise there. That includes progress meetings with school site councils over a period of time. There I have January through March, beginning to formulate and draft a presentation and a master plan. And that would again go to superintendent's council, then be shared once again with site administration, and then a final report to the board this time next year. It is a lengthy process. There's probably a reason we do it every 5-6 years or so. So again, the next one's 2030. So that's what I have tonight. And the last slide I like a lot. It is the engagement collaboration meeting we had on a Saturday, if I remember right, at Emmerprush Farm for the last facilities master plan. Some familiar faces. We blurred it intentionally, in case you're wondering. And that's my presentation. Any questions?
Go ahead, Herrera.
I'm glad we're queuing up again for an update on the facilities master plan. Are you aware, because in the 33-year, when I first came on the board in 1990, we had just passed Measure A, what we called then Measure A, for 100 million, and part of that process involved the first facilities master plan that I was involved or was aware of as a board member. Since then, with the facilities update, the facilities master plans being update, I am not aware that we've ever actually had the resources or the financing to just go completely through a master plan and meet all the identified needs. I've always had the understanding that we can only, now we're on this section of the master plan, and now we're going for more bond money, and now we're on that section. Oh, and by the way, it's been updated, and there's more now on the list. We've never really been able to just say, we've done it, the master plan is complete. Is my understanding also similar to or same as your understanding?
Yes, that is true, and I understand what you're saying there, as far as if there was a list at one point in time, that Measure A, that's a snapshot of the needs at that time in and around Measure A. But just like a lot of things, those needs shift, those needs change, areas of focus move up and down. So again, this is kind of a snapshot yet again of the one we did in 2017, and I guarantee what was presented in 2017 as a list of wants or must-haves will be different in some way.
Yeah, it does shift.
Yeah. So that by that nature, completion of that list needs that flexibility of time and the ability for people to find ways to meet current needs.
Yeah, I just highlight that inquiry because I've heard comments over time including recently, that we just keep pouring all these big old, bond measures, and it's like a bottomless pit. And what are we actually getting? And again, my understanding has been there's a master list. We never have enough money to get even halfway through it. Time evolves, you update it, there's more, and
So the way Measure A is described to me, I wasn't here for that. But there's Measure A, and then I think there's something people have in the friendliest of ways have nicknamed the son of Measure A, because I think there's two
yeah,
Measure A's.
there was another
So,
measure.
so when there was the son of Measure A, which is I think entirely funded Evergreen.
Mhm.
That's one thing. Now Evergreen is 20 years older, right? So that snapshot
Right.
is of an infant and a 20-year-old.
Right.
So yeah, these things shift.
And I mean, this is not a small district.
No.
Our facilities are
Yeah.
wide ranging.
Yeah.
And as you said, needs and wants,
Mhm.
once we start to consult with our sites, there are wants.
Yes.
And we've tried to meet at least some of them.
Yeah, I would push back on anyone who said, and what are we really getting for it? Because we have incredible, beautiful, award-winning facilities, So I think I'm grateful for our generous community and grateful for our team that is able to produce for our kids, some amazing facilities. So thank you for that. A question I have that is, I know that the master plan and the allocation for Measure N are separate.
Yes.
But they're sort of related too, right? Or aren't they, or is there?
So every good idea needs a good funding source at some point in time. Otherwise, it's just an idea. So that would be that connection. But the master plan will develop a list that will be perhaps more likely than not longer in it and have more itemized costs than whatever allocation model we come up with might have for any particular site. Yes, so they're not tied, but because this is a long range planning exercise, not necessarily a commitment to how to spend. It's a guide and a framework, not necessarily a mandate.
What's the timing for the conversation around the allocation of Measure N?
Working with Superintendent's Council on developing an appropriate allocation model.
If I can jump in here, so this is very much a focusing document, right? The work that we have in place, this doesn't alter that. Those projects are going forward. This doesn't turn itself into a list of projects for the future. And it's not only wants. We are in a phase of our history where needs and modernizations are going to have to be taken into account. And so again, right, as always, right? So when we start getting into the allocation conversation, we're going to have to kind of see where we are with the facilities master plan and what's been identified, if there's going to have to be much more infrastructural dollars applied and how that operates generally as opposed to site specific. But also hearing how sites identify where they're going and what their needs are. So this is really a focusing document to allow us to do that other work, not rush toward money and next projects, even though I would like to get there, but we need to go through the process that focuses us over time as our new Measure N monies, incredible support from the community, but it does go fast, but it's over a long period of time.
So Silver Creek Gas Leak was involved in this facility master plan. As I stopped by Silver Creek, visit with Silver Creek, and I know most of our school are getting older. I was wondering that do we have we going to east side of school and really looking to analysis for all of this facility and pinpoint what are the priority that we need to fix, because we don't want to wait until like the gas, was broken, then we fix, then we lost the date of the school as well as in all of this drama will tie in with one of this issue. So do you have a plan that to look into the facility master plan as well as look into all site and recommend back to our board, which one of my priority to get it done before it's too late?
So the facilities master plan will have a cursory review of the infrastructure, let's say mechanical units, electrical, sewer, storm, gas. But it will not be necessarily an in-depth study into those utilities. It will hold money or give a rough order of magnitude for the cost of replacement repair, but it can't predict future problems in that way. But what we did in 2017 and what we would do this time as well, we would look into the ticketing system, the work order ticketing system, to look for patterns and highlights and ways that the building's age or infrastructure have failed, in some way. And again, identify that as an area for improvement. But this going through and doing a full health check of infrastructure, this would not dig that deep. It's not the purpose of, because remember that they're covering all sites, all areas, and really trying to assess needs in a way that is the best way to predict what might happen. So as an example, the issue at Silver Creek, one of the things that because that comes up later tonight, but one of the things that has perplexed me on that is that we have 11 comprehensive schools. School 1, James Lick, and then Evergreen. Silver Creek's School 7, kind of in the middle. And we have this issue with that we're repairing now, or we're going to repair. But why that piece of steel aged the way it did, or developed the weak points that it did, it couldn't be because it's older than James Lick, and it couldn't be because it's older than Andrew Hill, and it couldn't be because et cetera, et cetera. Something must have been different. So we're looking into that as we work on Silver Creek, but that doesn't mean that we are going to have a similar failure or issue at some of those schools that are older or younger, older than School 7. So we study that in the bond program, and my good friends in the maintenance and operations program. We all study that to make sure we're doing what we're going to do for Silver Creek for the right reason, and that we can predict where infrastructure can fail going forward. That's important.
Not all our buildings have the same problems at the same age, right? It's essentially it's just like, okay, it's not when you get to this many years that your gas lines are gonna go, right? Because if you look at the materials that we built with at James Lick at School 1, and then the materials we built with at Evergreen at School 11, they're incredibly different, right? And the architecture is different, and just a lot of things change. So like I said, it's not going to be a full health check, but maybe a physical and an evaluation of just kind of what do we see tickets coming in from other areas, so we can see for this building, what can we maybe anticipate will be a need? Or is it just simply in the master plan that, hey, we're not going to predict what it is, but we're going to assume that there's going to be something at each of our sites. So how much should we just allocate and kind of hold off to the side for that eventuality, and then maybe release it later if something doesn't occur? So all that will be the thinking that goes into the facilities master plan.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Glenn, can I ask you that? I mean, just on what you just said earlier, do you make decision based on like a total dollar amount multiplied by a certain percentage that you somehow just speculate on what that might be, or how do you plan for it accordingly.
That's why we'll work with our consultants and we'll look at our funding. We had we had a lot of thought in this district about how we allocated funds to sites throughout these years, and pretty high and sophisticated. And I think what we're gonna have to build into that conversation now is just like, okay, what do we want to kind of put aside, or what do we want to predict or allocate to a site for some form of attrition or repair that might be just larger than a small maintenance item or a small repair. So that's the conversations we'll be having and in our meetings and then also here at the diet.
So the repair of the like Silver Creek gas leak will be we'll have to tap into our general fund budget, correct?
No.
Well, I think in the issue of Silver Creek, I think maybe when we get to that, we can explain exactly how we're approaching it. And then explaining how we're going to approach it and how we're going to fund it and where it fits into how we operate as a district. That will give us some sense of, oh, we put aside some monies when we were doing this before for eventualities like this. And we're going to, hey, go us, right? Like we made that decision. What we'll have to make this round is kind of to your point, okay, how much? What's the percentage? What do we predict? And with inflation and good things like that, how we might have to rethink that number. But we'll do that at another time. Like I said, we've already made decisions from a pre-existing master plan and an allocations and project list that has prepared us to continue to move forward with our already identified project and has allowed us to respond for an incident that is much more than just a little bit of maintenance because of the good thinking that's happened before.
Go to slide 7, please. What we're talking about now is essentially step number 2, proposal, evaluation, and selection, or a combo of 1 and 2, like when we're going to discuss stuff.
We're talking about the continuation of the process. So we will release the RFP.
Right. Oh, that's
But
the
once it-
RFP. Oh,
And
my
just
goodness.
for the public, that's a request for a proposal. So
Yes.
Yeah.
we'll send out to the world and to those that do this work. Here's what we're looking for. Here's what the aspect of our
Yeah,
plan has
yeah.
to be, the minimum standards. Here's what our last 2 look like. Here's a bunch of information, and then they'll come to us and say, we can do that work. And this is kind of what we charge and stuff like that. So we're getting that process going so that on the other end of that, we can bring back to you on December
So-
14.
Yeah.
The group that we're saying, this
right,
will be
it's
the
gonna lead
group
the
or the
work.
consultant that helps us through the
Right.
rest of this process
Mhm.
to create a facilities master plan that we bring to you in September of 2024.
So that's when we get the answers to a lot of these questions
That's
that
when
we're
we get,
asking right now. We get
Yeah.
clear on the proposal.
Yep.
you
They have
will.
to do their homework first.
some answers
Let
you'll
them do
get
their homework.
and some will be frameworks for our next discussion.
Got it.
If you don't mind, I'll ask my questions offline, so I will spare my colleagues of all the
All the
detail.
Yeah.
But I do want to make a quick comment. If you are a student watching this at the moment, whenever you want to discuss a topic as riveting as facility master plan,
Yeah.
always start with, I have good news for you.
Yeah.
That's in your name, introduce your name.
Yeah. Every time I'm up here, I'll do that.
Love it. Thank you.
All right.
Go ahead, Iveta.
Are you at the end of your presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I remember doing just a very rough calculation about cumulative funding approved by the voters since the first Measure A in 1990. And I came up with like $1.5 billion, and I don't know if that's accurate or not.
That's accurate.
That's accurate, about $1.5 billion. Yeah. Well, that's great. A historical footnote is that back in the day, when the voters started being generous in this way, adult ed was not at the table. And I know that because I took that issue up and championed that they ought to be at the table, with consideration for needed facilities, which led to the Independence site now and the second, site at Overfelt and so on. And I'm assuming that they will be at the table again in a new master plan update.
That's
If
right.
there is, if there are other needs or wants for facilities.
So as a way to explain how we've structured things in the past, including the last master plan. Let me see if I can do this right. The three SBNs, Phoenix, Apollo, Pegasus, the two adult eds, or it's actually one adult ed, two campuses, I think how I'd like to say it. And special services, Calero, for example, or ATP. And oh boy, I'm not sure who I'm forgetting, but we have them grouped as alternative ed models, and they're recognized in the master plan in that way.
That answers
But
my
with our
question.
comprehensives, we go through full board.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right,
Just thank you for this. That's really
Thank you.
helpful, to see where we're going. It's just really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, do we have any public comment on this? No, and okay, great. I do believe we need a motion. So moved by Doe,
Second? Oh,
seconded by Lay. Yep, board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Vote passes unanimously. Thank you again, Julio. Okay, it's 11:02. 12 is already taken care of. 13.01, this is discussion or action to approve contracts for professional services over 25,000. You're waiting for someone to make
Move
a
to
motion.
approve.
Second.
All right, great. So we got two motions. I'm gonna count yours as a second if you're all right with that.
I'm always looking at that.
Okay, so moved by Cortese, seconded by Doe. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes unanimously. That's 13.1, 13.02. This is discussion and or action to adopt resolution 2023-24-05, establishing appropriations for GAN spending limit. Ms. Huntoon, I think you referenced this in the, do you want to do like a one-liner?
Yes, this is an annual process,
Yeah.
a statutory process that happens every year.
Great.
So moved.
Move approval.
Okay, so I moved by Herrera, seconded by Lay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, vote passes unanimously. All right, we're now at 13.03. Discussion or action to approve emergency one-day closure for Evergreen Valley High School and Excel Middle High School College on Tuesday, August 22nd due to PG&E power outage.
I'll move to approve.
Goodness, you guys,
How about just take a quick safety and like.
moved by Cortese, seconded by Lay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, passes.
I moved that
unanimously.
trustee Doe wait 3 seconds before he moves or second.
All right, do I have a second? Do I have a second? All right, we'll see you in a few minutes, though. All right, we're now on to section 14.01. This action to approve variable term waiver request for certificated employees.
Move approval.
Oh, there you go.
Second.
Okay, so we got a motion by Lay, seconded by Cortese. Board, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion passes unanimously. All right, section 15, we're almost at consent, y'all. 15.01, action to approve bond capital project contracts over 50,000. Moved by Herrera, seconded by Doe. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, motion passes unanimously. 15.02, this is action to adopt resolution 2023-24-06. It's emergency board resolution of Eastside Union High School District approving a contract for the utility gas line improvements at Silver Creek High School.
Move approval.
I think I heard you first, so move by Herrera, Lay, seconded.
Herrera.
Board, all those in favor of the motion? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. We're moving this forward. Vote passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, so now we are in consent calendar.
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, oh, God. Okay, I'm just gonna, go with me, okay, colleagues? Moved by Cortese, seconded by Doe. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Vote passes unanimously. All right, that's through 21, we have one item under written reports. There's no action required, but just want to put that on the radar. Okay, we're now going on to section 22. All right, colleagues, are there any future board agenda items?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, trustee Lei.
I'd like to request that the presentation for the civic engagement, because I know that I think in our district we have maybe only one class for civic engagement, and we have when I look into in like we need to have like a state sale, as well as because when I attend the meeting of Santa Clara County with Superintendent Dr. Diwan, and they did mention about civic engagement and voter for our student. So I want to know that how can we promote, and explain, or, for our student to understand their right, or they learn how to vote at the age of 16, I believe. But I think it's in our district, I don't see we have any other program or any class, except I believe in YB, there's only one civic engagement class, and other site didn't have anything. And I'm looking forward to see if we can have the state seal when the student taking those classes will be recommended for the state seal.
We'll
Okay,
take a
so
look at that.
presentation on civic engagement. Awesome. Cortese.
So I'm not recommending that we add something to future items, but to redact or not redact, but take away or consolidate. So on the a while back, I had asked for a report on the plan for vehicle charging stations. And given that we just talked about a facilities master plan, maybe that can just be incorporated given the the national and state directives toward reducing fossil fuel vehicles, that maybe we could just incorporate looking at electric vehicle charging stations as part of that and not as a separate report.
All right.
And just yesterday, I was in a conversation with a CSEA member and leader who brought that issue up. And I said, "Oh, forgot that you had already brought it forward."
Great.
I'd like to comment too. I'm listed here with my item, which is supposed to come back in the fall of 2023, which is this general time frame. And I'd like it to come back. The two bullets to have the board discuss implementing a semi-annual staff survey on program needs and wants. And it's just another channel for the board to have its ear to the ground, and for the administration to have timely input. It's not that we're going to adopt anything, just simply to like have our ear to the ground. What are staff saying? We need this program, or we want that, whatever implemented. And the second bullet, and this one I feel more strongly about, it just still upsets me when I hear people saying, I've been going out of pocket, I'm still going out of pocket for this, for that, for the other. And I just don't think it's excusable for me that anything they consider important enough for their students that they would pay for it, we ought to pay for it, and I think it would help the board to have quarterly or whatever time we establish information on what has been paid out of pocket during this quarter by our staff and for what, just so we keep it in front of our own awareness. And I would like a discussion on that. That's why those are listed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Trustee Doe? Okay, I know I was really energized by the IPC meeting, like a presentation today. I think I mentioned math a little bit. Happens to be your math teacher, I forgot. I forgot for a quick second. I know we're gonna be talking about instruction at different points in time, but if there's a way for us to continue talking about that, especially because we know that that's a big obstacle for a lot of our kids to meeting the A through G requirements. I'd love to see how we're engaging and supporting and focusing on that area. Board President?
Yeah, I know on the future item on 2022.02, you did request for dual enrollment opportunities.
Mhm.
The report will be on fall 2023. I was wondering that, if the district or staff will take a look of the dual enrollment that we haven't right now with CCA, with Evergreen College, but maybe take another step to look the partnership with San Jose State University or any other uh, college or any other university, because I know that one of the question that one of the student in Champs League was brought it in for the dual enrollment. So I just want to put it in here so everybody can look into the opportunity when they do the report for dual enrollment.
So maybe like, are you talking about the Spartan Eastside Promise?
No, yesterday in the student governing board, we did just talk about AP classes and
AP
possibly, should we be AP classes and dual enrollment classes?
Right.
The district is working with that and we can provide that information, probably in the form of a report for now, as it is still ongoing with our partners.
Okay,
Thank you.
great.
Superintendent.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. That's section number 22. We are now on section 23. All right, comments. So let's start over here. Herrera, you ready?
Thank you. I have no comment.
Go ahead. No comment. Okay. Hold on, Eddie, not yet, but Lay.
Well, I'm very pleased to attend the SGB, and our student did very well. The attendance very increased, from the last several board meeting with SGB. And I did the oath for the 3 new SGB board members. And I think the next one, I would like to invite Eastside to attend the Moon Festival. It's coming up on Saturday, September 30th, to support our student as well as Feeder District, and to support the fundraiser for our McKinney Vento. That's all I have.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. I will go with no comment today. It is, let's see. Oh, wait, before I'm getting ahead of myself. 23.03, superintendent comments.
If you're sure. Okay. Hey, I want to thank the sites that have invited me into their homes and the teachers and classified staff that been talking, lifting up what's good at their site and where there's work to do. I really appreciate it. Even when there's an emphasis on work to do, I appreciate the spirit and the collaborative nature of our conversations, and I want to thank for that. And looking forward to being at James Lick on Thursday and Andrew Hill on Friday. Also, we'll be judging at the Moon Festival. That'll be a great time. And then also, if you haven't already signed up, the James Lick Gala that same evening. So a lot going on in the district. But again, students, staff, thanks for putting in the work every day to make sure that our students can be full participants in their schools and this Silicon Valley. And once again, one great route to that is the Spartan Eastside Promise. And juniors, please know that the San Jose State will be looking for that 2.5 GPA at the end of your junior year. So it's not just a senior effort. Please make sure you're putting in the work now to get that GPA and keep that opportunity and that promise alive. And thanks again for all the continued input just around how people are feeling good about their schools or where they're concerned. And we take that all in and we'll be developing and reaching out for folks for that task force to continue that conversation. Thank
You. All right, so we are now at section 24. Legal counsel, is there anything to report out?
Mr. Superintendent, can you please report out any closed session actions?
In closed session, the board took action First by Member Doe, seconded by Von Lay for the stipulated of expulsion of student 23-24-001. The vote was 5-0.
Thank you. All right, it is 8:25 PM. This meeting is adjourned.